Joining me is the city manager from Phoenix, Ed Zuercher. First of all, thank you for coming down.
Thanks for having me.
Such an important time as we focus on Phoenix with the budget cuts that were projected. Let's start there. Is there going to be budget cuts in Phoenix, and if so, what would that look like?
That's a great question. You know, we started off the budget season thinking we had a $28 million surplus, and like everything else, when COVID happened, we went from that to right away a $26 million deficit. So we covered that without making significant cuts. We, reduced our purchases of vehicles and some of those things. We don't know. That's the interesting thing right now is the economy is so unpredictable and our information lags. So we don't have good sales tax numbers yet on what happened in April, what has happened in May. So we gave a range. We thought it would be between 30 million and 150 million, and we're still waiting. We have about.
And that's such a big gap.
I know it's it's a big gap to figure out.
And so selfishly, because I live in Phoenix, talked about trash and services. Are those some of the considerations? Is reduction in services as opposed to layoffs or tax increases?
So things like trash and water, they are funded by the people who use them. So we don't have any cuts that we're even contemplating in trash and water. It's what we call the general fund. That's police and fire, parks and libraries, kind of the general services. That's what it is with it's most at risk from these sort of economic downturns. And right now, we have another interesting source of money that could help us, which is the federal relief funds that were sent to the large cities in the United States. That's something we think may help us avoid significant cuts.
In public safety, there's two things happening right now. One is Phoenix PD is, understaffed. That's my opinion. It's understaffed. It's smaller than it was before.
That's right.
About half the size of Philadelphia. But there's also this kind of defund police movement. Is that affecting your decisions? Is that going to happen?
Well, I can't predict what's going to happen. I think the defund conversation is probably misstated by people who are saying it. I look at it more as people who are frustrated saying, it's less about having less money for the police as we have them, and they want more money for other things like affordable housing and healthcare and education. I understand that, but defunding the police is not a realistic goal. We do have fewer police officers than we did 10 years ago, and it is important for us to have a fully staffed police force. There are some studies that show that having more police can actually help reduce police violence, because
right.
Police get stressed, they get tired. If you don't have enough officers, then they're stressed out, they're tired, they're fatigued, and that's when mistakes happen. So there's a balance that we have to strike, and I don't think defund makes any sense.
I agree with you, and I'm glad to hear you say that. When you look at the Phoenix Police Department with what's been happening with the protests, I think they've done a stellar job of making sure the protesters were safe, that violence didn't happen, but then they still have to answer calls for service. They've gone without days off. There is that stress level with them where you have to wonder if they get to a breaking point, and that's where the staffing issue has always scared me, is when a crisis like this happens.
That's right, and I know you had Chief Williams on here. You've talked to her, and she and I agree. We're very proud of the police officers in Phoenix and how they've handled this. It's been 105, 110 degrees. They wear 30 to 40 pounds of gear. There's people in their face, and they've maintained their calm.
And walking the same miles with the protesters and all that gear.
All that stuff with the gear. They've maintained a great demeanor through all this. Very proud of how our officers have acted and conducted themselves.
So you've watched the city transform with all your years. We have become such a major city, and all indicators are we're going to become much bigger as people move to the desert Southwest. What are the challenges you see from a budget standpoint moving forward in the city of Phoenix? What are we going to look like in 10 years?
Well, that's an interesting question. One of the challenges we have as a budget is the situation with pensions. That got a lot of attention about 10 years ago and has had less, but the funding of pensions, particularly for our police officers and firefighters, puts a real stress on our budget. And so we have to find ways to continue to meet those obligations, because there have been promises made to our retirees.
Sure.
We have to do that. I think, to go back to the defund idea, it's not defunding, it's how do we find more resources for library hours and parks and those things that people want for their quality of life. It's the things that make a city worth living in, and finding the resources to do those things is really important.
All right, so you reminded me of a question. This has been, and this has been maybe a point of disagreement. If the city is going to own and maintain golf courses and they lose money, why doesn't the city sell those golf courses to private entities and get rid of the burden to the taxpayers in Phoenix.
Yeah, so golf is one that we hear a lot about. Golf is an amenity, it's a recreational amenity.
Sure.
So, we have swimming pools, we have soccer, we have softball, and actually golf returns more money to us than any of those other recreational amenities. So
It's a great argument.
while we do lose some money, and we're probably pretty close to breaking even this year, there's been a strong surge in playing golf at the city golf courses. They make more money for the city than something like swimming pools. The other thing is golf courses are amenities in neighborhoods. They're open space, they provide cooling, and so we just have to be really careful about how we treat our golf courses and how they function for the city and for the neighborhoods. But they're also a significant recreation, and in Arizona, it's a significant industry.
Yeah, and I love Encanto. I mean, and it's right there in the middle of town.
Yep.
Like you said, it's one of those green spaces that really looks kind of cool right there in the middle of those neighborhoods. I got to tell you, I appreciate you coming on the show for the first time. I'd love to carry on the conversation because I think, like everybody else, I just love this city and I just want it to be the best it can be, and I'm anxious to see what we're going to become.
Well, thanks for having me, and I'm glad you're a Phoenix resident. I hope we continue to provide you great service.
Thanks. We'll be back.